Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast.
Very excited for our guest today, Prano. A former Philadelphia Eagle, your favorite team.
That's right.
5 years in the NFL.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's, unlike a lot of Eagles, he is educated and he can write.
Wrote a book?
Yeah, put together a full sentence or two.
Yeah, that's right. So, Dennis Franks, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm excited. You know, I hear a lot of good things about this podcast, and I can't wait to really engage with you guys.
This is the first time that we've had an athlete in our new setup here. How do you feel about being on a couch in a studio apartment between two guys? Does this take you back to the training camp days?
No, actually, it reminds me of porn, you know?
Yeah,
One of the big Hollywood sets.
Casting couch.
We Dennis, we definitely have with the lights in here.
You can make $3,000 to $5,000 per shoot.
Yeah. Just so you know, we're just going to use this for tape. This might not actually be online.
Right.
That's what they say. So you've written a book, The Last Last Laugh.
Yeah, Vision to Victory.
Yeah.
One of the great things about that is having the opportunity to tell some stories and really show where we came from and how it evolved into the results that we are today.
And you co-wrote it with Vince Papale.
Yes,
and he's famous for the movie with Mark Wahlberg. Mm-hmm. And you were just saying before the show that you were upset with your casting in the movie.
Yeah, first of all, if you've not seen the movie Invincible, it's a wonderful movie about the underdog who makes it. Now imagine this, guy that's too old to play professional football, 30 years old, gets a call to walk on to make the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's his story about going through everything that he had to go through and then contributing to help build the 1980 NFC championship team. And he did a great job. It's a great story. The true Rocky for Philadelphia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They got to get him a statue.
Yeah, he would like one, but he's not going to see that.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be an upgrade from a fictional movie character for the city?
Well, he is known by all. If you are anywhere from the greater Philadelphia area, you know Vince Papale. He's done so much for the community. He's contributed to so many schools and made a difference for such youth athletics. I mean, it's just amazing.
And what is it about your relationship with Vince that you guys went in on this book together?
Well, it goes back to the story. You know, I used to be a professional floor control engineer. Most people know that by bouncer. In the off seasons back in the day.
Can you repeat what that term again? I love this.
Yeah, we were called floor control engineers.
Such a nice way of putting it. I'm going to beat the shit out of people, right?
I'm an engineer.
And we were basically, I was bouncing in the off season at Fran O'Brien's, which was a nightclub in Philadelphia on the main line, and he was also a bouncer there. And he came up to me and he said, you know, I'm going to go out for the Eagles. And I said, you're too pretty to play football. You know, he's a good-looking guy. You know, bottom line was, we'll see. You know, so we didn't like each other a whole lot. You know, that's how we met. And then one night, there was a big fight. We were called upon to fight back-to-back. There was a group of Italians out having a good time, and one
terrible people, the Italians.
Joe's people over there always causing something.
One sort of reached within his coat, and we thought he was going for the heat, and so we went right in on. And before you know, we were fighting 7 or 8 guys. We got our asses kicked, but we just loved it, and we got them out.
But you know what's so well, there's so many elements that are fascinating. You are a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, and in the off season, how things have changed. You're bouncing bars.
Correct. You got to understand, my contract in 1975, and I was a second-team All-American, All-Big Ten center at the University of Michigan. I got a whopping $18,500.
Wow.
Yeah, and get this, $4,000 bonus, of which $2,000 I spent on beer at our frat party.
That's about what intern Trevor makes for working.
Yeah. Actually, if intern Trevor made that much, he'd be sitting good. He makes exactly $0 right now.
You know, it's experience that counts, you know. But, no, back then, you know, could you imagine doing what you love and getting paid? It was great. Didn't matter how much we got. We probably played for free.
So you were at Michigan. You said second-team All-American. you were drafted or not drafted?
No, I was too small. The computer spit me out. I was 6'1". I came out at 248, and I didn't have the arm reach. They didn't see how high we could jump, but I had the white man disease. I couldn't jump that high, And basically, I was strong and I was quick and I was smart. But the whole thing, I got spit out of the computer. And so as a result, while teams said, "Hey, Den, we're going to draft you. We like you," and all this good stuff, nobody drafted me, and nothing was worse than looking at that phone for 2 friggin' days and it didn't ring.
Now, how was it back then? Because obviously now the players are so over scrutinized with the analytics and all the numbers. Back then, can you give maybe the difference of how it was then versus now? I mean, obviously you still had to go through all the other tests, right? And was there a combine back then?
No, there was not. And I'll tell you, there were scouts, and that was about it. They got scouts, and they had game film. And then if you made it into the top 25, more people looked at you. Back then, not that many players came from the small schools and played because they didn't have the vision, or they didn't have the promotion that television brings today. Yeah. But I was on the team of the decade. We were 42-1 in the 70s.
Wow.
And so we were quite a good winning streak. We only lost 2 games to Ohio State. that was a pretty good career.
Not the one you want to lose either.
No, it was the last game of the season, going in undefeated, and bam.
So why did you? Because I know you're from Pennsylvania. And I'm actually from Ohio myself. What made you choose? Because you were getting recruited by Ohio State and Michigan at the same time, correct?
I had 113 scholarship offers, and
wow.
Back then, you were only allowed.
That's funny. I had a scholarship offer for $113. So it's almost the same thing.
Well, when I came out of,
I can't even count to 113 for the record.
When I came out of Western Pennsylvania, that was sort of like where Mike Ditka came, Joe Namath, Tony Dorsett. I mean, one after another, bam, bam, bam. It was like the melting pot of people coming out to play ball at major colleges and then going on to the pros. In fact, my next door neighbor was a number 1 pick. Jimmy Kelly was a tight end at Notre Dame, and he was my inspiration growing up. He lived in the row home 3 down from me. We lived in an alley in Clairton, Pennsylvania, next to the steel mills, and it was something. But the whole storyline going to Michigan was they weren't even in my top 5 teams, and this is how Woody Hayes and Bobby Bowden and John McKay and Bear Bryant, Ara Precision. Think about this. I'm walking the halls of Notre Dame with Ara Precision saying, "Son, this is where tradition is. This is where you should play." Woody Hayes talking history with my father, and Joe Paterno talking about, Italians should go to Penn State, or we were just going like, they were all there. And then Michigan wasn't in the scene, but Bo calls my mother and says, "Inga," and my mom's Ingeborg. She was a national champion in ice skating from Germany. And she said, "Inga," said, "it would be a travesty if your son did not see Michigan before he made his decision." And it was my mother that said, "Son, you need to go to see Michigan." And I said, "There's no more weekends." So I went on a Monday and Tuesday. Now, there was a great guy who was probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he is in the Hall of Fame, Reggie Mckenzie. He was a big offensive lineman. He showed me around. He blocked for O.J. Simpson back in the day.
This is pre-murder.
Yeah, pre-murder. Right.
Just to clarify.
Allegedly.
Exactly. So he blocked for them. They gave him $100 to take me out. So Reggie and Tom Coyle, another big guy, took me out. They bought me 2 bottles of Boone's Farm apple. Never forget this.
Boone's Farm.
We drank it. I passed out. And the next morning, I said, "How was it?" He goes, "You had so much fun last night." That's what they were telling me. And then I passed out. I did, okay. But it came down to going to the stadium. Now, you got to imagine back in 1971, Michigan Stadium, the big house, 104,000 people filling the stadium. And then Bo Schembechler brings me to his office. He says, "So you're Denny Franks." He says, "I hear you're pretty good." He says, "But I don't know if you're good enough to play for Michigan. But I'm willing to give you a shot." And that's how he closed me.
Wow.
He challenged me.
You.
Wow.
Everybody else said, "You're going to be a great linebacker. You're going to be this. You're going to be that." And he was the only one that says, "I don't know if you're good enough."
And do you think that ignited you you just took the challenge. Is that kind of how it worked out for you then?
Yeah. One of the things, whenever you're undersized or whenever people doubt you, and if you're competitive, like for me, when people doubt me or say I can't do something, then I will. I mean, I'm going to do everything in my power to prove them wrong. It just sort of it fires me up. I don't know what fires you guys up, but I hope it's not me in the middle of this couch.
Every time you start firing me up, I see the Eagles shirt, and I'm like, it's not. It's never going to work out for us.
I'm a simple guy. It's usually Taco Bell and Netflix. That's what gets me fired up. Now, you yourself have a background in figure skating, which you got to talk about this because I saw this on Wikipedia. Are you the only professional actually, let's just not even say lineman in the history of the National Football League that also can figure skate? I mean, there has to be some sort of record there.
You know what? I got to tell you, it is one of the things that has really helped me, in my opinion, as far as agility and balance. But I grew up on figure skates, not hockey skates. My mom being a professional athlete and national champion figure skater with Germany, she came over to the United States and she was teaching, and a lot of men didn't figure skate. But there's ice dancing, which is very popular today.
Yeah.
A lot of people watch it on the Olympics. Well, my brother and I, we brought the students through their dance tests. I have my silver dances. My brother was gold dancing. I mean, it wasn't like solid gold dancers, but, you got to get on your edges and you got to get around. And it was pretty exciting until one day I realized that, girls didn't like guys that ice skate that much. So I said, Mom, I got to go play some football here.
It's amazing. You're right in the middle ground, a little too small for the NFL, a little too big to be an ice skater.
Yeah, listen, this body doing spins and jumps and flipping my leg up, that was too much. Too much.
After Michigan, how is it they end up on the Eagles? Like, were they another team that just gave you a shot? Did you get calls and post-draft from multiple teams, or were they the ones that were like, come on down? Right.
Well, so here's how it works. If you don't go in the first 3 rounds, okay, you really don't lose a whole lot if you're drafted 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, okay? In fact, you have more flexibility if you're not drafted to pick the team that you're most likely to get the best shot. And after I did not get drafted and my agent called me up and said, okay, let's start going to work, I start getting all these calls right after the draft saying, come on, I want you to come in as a free agent. So we just backed off and we looked at all the teams. We looked at the center position on each of the teams that we explored, and we found the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles had the candidate that I would most likely be able to beat out. And that would be the second team person, the punt snapper, the field goal snapper, because usually you make it on special teams, and the more you can do. So my rookie year, for instance, I played center, guard, tight end. We only had 8 linemen,
Wow.
When we got in there, yeah.
Now, you talked about being a special team center, and when most people watch the NFL, the great thing is most people don't know that guy's name, and everything's fine when he snaps 60 punts in a row that are great. But then the one that he duffs, the one that he bounces, people lose their mind. Like, fuck this guy. What is he even doing out there? How much pressure is it when you're snapping a punt or you're snapping a field goal? That, what's going through your mind? I mean, you're just thinking, can't be too high, can't be too low. It's got to be just right. Because I always think that's got to be a really tough job. Head down between your legs.
Yeah,
throwing a ball backwards.
Back then, you were allowed to hit the center.
Right.
Oh,
Today,
man.
You're not allowed to hit.
Yeah.
And I often ran down the field after I snapped the ball, seeing all kinds of the universe go by.
Yeah.
But you pointed and you went. But the toughest thing, and people don't realize this, it takes a skill and a set mind that you can put that ball, whether it's cold, rainy, dry, back to the punter in 0.75 seconds on his hip so that he can kick. Because they time how fast the guy from the outside can actually run free in to get to the punter. Okay, and that's the timing. Like on a field goal, you have to have 0.3 seconds. It has to be in the guy's hand and up, strings forward, kick. Okay, some of the toughest times in my life when it comes to being a center. One, I remember playing my rookie season, and we were playing the Washington Redskins, and we were on the 4-yard line, and Spike Jones was the punter, and we needed to get a good punt out. And the guy across from me started talking about my mother, how he had his way with her. And the other guy said,
Very classy.
You were a figure skater too, huh?
There was a lot of line talk, because you're trying to get your head off the game and all. So my veins in my neck again. I'm going to pop this guy. I'm just going to hit him. I'm not even worried about run down. I'm just getting a fight. So he was talking in my head, and I was a rookie. And next thing you know, I snapped the ball. Man, it was great. Fired back right over the punter's head and out of the end zone. I was booed by 75,000 people.
Is this in the old vet?
In the old vet. Mm-hmm.
Did you take any batteries to the helmet?
Let me say this to you. When I came to the sideline, Coach Vermeil said to me, he said, son, don't ever do that again or you'll be looking for a job. That was his comment. It never happened again.
What was I can't imagine, and Joe brought up a good point. It's such a thankless job because you're expected to do the right thing every time, but you only get acknowledged when you don't. So in that moment, do you have a good vivid memory of what's going through your head at that point with everybody booing you and just how you felt?
I felt rejection. I felt like, fuck. Oh, excuse me.
No,
I felt
all
bad.
the fucks you want on this show.
I said like,
not the couch. I just mean I'm saying it.
Well, no, I came. You come off the field. All the fans, the Philly fans, are not the most reasonable fans.
No.
Well, we should talk about that too,
because. Lord, there was some screaming, kill the bump, get him out of here.
Kill him.
Send him back to Michigan, all kind of thing.
We've talked a lot about Eagles fans on this show, and as a Giants fan, yeah, I know. As a Giants fan growing up, I always thought, the Cowboys, that's our biggest rival. They were always good during the 90s, and it was always the Cowboys. And then I went to my first game in Philly as a Giants fan, and people are telling me, and my friend told me, don't wear Giants gear. And people are telling me before I get out of the car, we're going to slash your tires while you're inside. We're going to do this. And, threats the whole game. And I said, Philly fans, and I've been everywhere in the country watching games as a visitor, Philly fans are the worst I've ever experienced. When you're on the Philadelphia Eagles, does that come across to you guys? Are they supportive fans? Are you worried that they're going to turn on a dime? Do you notice how awful they seem to the outside world? Like, what's your experience with Philadelphia Eagles fans as a guy who played on the team?
Well, the Philadelphia fans are loyal. Philadelphia fans will stick by you, but they have the privilege of booing the hell out of you if you're not putting everything you have into the game. And I remember those days early on in 1975 when I first went in there. They were not a good team. They were 4-12. It wasn't until 1976 when Dick came in that everything started to turn. But we were the first stadium to have a court system in there because there was so much brawling going on with visiting teams. And
I've been to the jail cell.
This guy has been there.
You have.
I've been under the vet. Yeah.
This is really exciting.
Yeah.
That's
You played
awesome.
up there. I was down below in a cell.
No, without a doubt, the Philly fans are terrific, and being at the Super Bowl this past year and seeing the Philly Nation go into Minneapolis at 11 below and just taking on the city, it was just awesome.
How was that for you as a former player? Was that pretty awesome?
Oh, yeah. We were there. Vince and I, we're good friends with Coach Peterson, so it's great to be able to talk to Doug and hear his insight on how he felt. We knew going into the game they were going to put the pedal down the entire time. He was not going to regret one thing. He was going to play aggressively all the way through, and they did. We being in the stands, it's really funny. You never know when you play the New England Patriots when it's over. And that last play when did the Hail Mary, and it was coming down the end zone, and Gronk's in there, and everybody was just in the stadium going, they would have hit the ground. Woo! People went crazy. Everybody went nuts. In fact, the woman to my left, who I didn't know, grabbed me around the neck and almost took me over the bleachers and out of the second tier. You know, she was so excited, but it was all good. You know,
obviously, you keep up with the team enough. You're at the Super Bowl. Do you follow Eagles football regularly? You watching on a week by week basis? Are you still heavily invested in the NFL, or as a former player, you kind of like, oh, they're doing well, I'll watch? And
well, you know what? I grew up a Steelers fan, but I bleed green, and I follow the Eagles. A lot of my friends are still back there. We've got Michigan guys playing on the team. In fact, Grant, who defensive end that hit the ball out of Brady's hand in the end, he was a Michigan boy. But, yeah, we follow them. We know the guys. Vince being in town, he does a lot of appearances. When I'm up there, I do it, work with them. When we were here at the Maxwell dinner just last week in Atlantic City at the Tropicana, it was great to see all the great athletes coming down to support everybody. I think Carson Wentz is amazing. I think Nick Foles played as good as you could ever play as someone who had role B, and then all of a sudden put into A. I mean, you got to give the man a great deal of credit, because no one in Philadelphia gave him a whole shot, until finally he started getting the rhythm down. But, yeah, I do follow him, and I'm very proud of him. But I also live in North Carolina, so I follow the Panthers, although I'm not a big fan of our quarterback Cam and his fashion styles.
Right, yeah. The hats are a little.
Is anybody?
Yeah.
I have not a clue, but his contract.
Are they drug testing him? Because what is going on there?
I don't know.
He's going to show up one time dressed as Barney or something. Like Joe and I always laugh about it. These guys get like the hipster dress that you would see from some white kid in Silver Lake. Now all these athletes are wearing. It's just gotten out of control.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? They've been given the stage, and I mean, he that's just flamboyant.
I'm sure in the 70s your outfits were pretty bold.
Polyester, baby, big collars, disco. It was in. In fact, when I finished my career in Detroit, that was my nickname, Disco.
Disco.
Yeah,
that's what they called you.
Yeah, because I could do some disco dancing.
But you also have another nickname. Weren't you called Diesel?
Yeah, I am the Diesel also.
Why were you called Diesel?
Well, again, that comes from another part of my life. I play in a rock band, so I sing.
Currently?
Yeah.
What's the band called?
What?
What's the band
It's called the Polaroids.
The
Polaroids, man. You remember the Polaroid camera?
Yeah, sure.
You're
Of
damn
course.
right. We're bringing back that good music. A little Southern rock, a little classic rock. Hell yeah.
What do you play?
I play a custom Gibson Les Paul, and I have a Fender Strat that I like. But Diesel comes from I do mostly rhythm guitar and sing, and then I just carry it like a diesel engine. Go.
I mean, this is incredible.
What doesn't he do?
Figure skater, football player, musician, a Renaissance
entrepreneur,
man.
author.
Yeah, floor engineer.
Can you fix my toilet before you leave? Because I mean, there's nothing you can't do.
And I got to talk a little bit more about your playing days,
Okay,
because the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. Who was it that would be a nose tackle or a defensive lineman on the other side of the ball that you're like, that's not the guy I want to see when I walk out there on Sunday?
Well, I'm gonna talk to all the youngsters that don't know this guy, Mean Joe Green. The first game I ever started was against Mean Joe Green and Ernie Arrowhead Holmes, who was basically arrested for shooting at people on a highway with a rifle on a gun.
Sounds like a guy you want to face.
But, the first time I played was in 1975. I started in Pittsburgh, my hometown, as a Philadelphia Eagle. And we went up to the line of scrimmage, and they played Joe Green on the nose of the center, and they had a defensive tackle, which was Ernie Arrowhead Holmes, in my ear hole, meaning that you were terrified when you came to the line of scrimmage, because there you had maybe 600 pounds of people coming off the line, being a rookie. And Ernie says to Joe, he goes, "Joe, we have some fresh meat today." And I about died. I had to change my underwear. Just like there was something. But Randy White was another great one. Came from the University of Maryland, played for Dallas. Big Hands Johnson. Curly Culp for the Houston Oilers. He bent my face mask, literally, about 3 inches to the left with one forearm blow to the face.
He forearmed your face mask, and that's what bent it. That's incredible.
Right. This he was an Olympic gold medalist wrestler, Greco wrestler, but went pro football at about 320 back in the days where you only had one 300-pounder a team.
Now, the game has obviously changed so much. When you watch today's NFL and how they can't do certain hits and how it's just so different than when you watched it, do you like how it's progressed in that fashion, or do you like it more of just the no-holds-barred football that you grew up and played with?
First and foremost, you don't play football without understanding there are risks. It's just like hockey, basketball, and everything else. So all this bullshit that's going on about, don't hit somebody in the head and all this other stuff, you're getting paid to get hit in the head. You're getting paid for the entertainment. You want the big contracts. There's going to be risk. I got a problem with it personally. We all are scared to death with the CTF issues with the brain and all that. In fact, as soon as I land back in
CTE, I think you might have it.
CTE. CTE thing. That's good. I like that. But when I land back in North Carolina, I'm going to Duke University to get a 6-hour test, a brain scan. All of the former athletes are going through this right now, but no, it's a modern day gladiator environment.
Yeah.
And you go out there to hit people. People are paying for this. I mean, who are you trying to kid?
Well, that's interesting that you said it, Dennis. So what would be your stance then, obviously with the movie Concussion and all the, it's basically a big tabloid grab. Everybody wants to talk about it, the concussion issue with the NFL. Do you not think former athletes like yourself should get some sort of settlement?
Absolutely, because Mike Webster was a personal friend of mine. We came out the same time. He was the one that was in that movie and featured the first client with the CTE. Bottom line, Junior Seau. I mean, it's it's very sad. I mean, families are destroyed. Everything's destroyed. But they're negotiating for another $3 or $4 million a year, $10 million a year, trying to get the guaranteed money. What are you getting it for?
Right.
You're not cutting a record or a movie or something. I sort of get that easier if you could keep making music and do this. You're being paid for a skilled position to do one thing, either to defend or score. I got my issues about that, and I bet a lot of the old school people feel the same way.
Yeah, and even being a fan of the game, I'm with you on that. My approach has always been the guys know what they're getting into. They're getting a lot of money to do it. And the league's making a lot of money, and it's settlement's one thing, but also take care of these guys after the game. That's my issue. It seems like if you play a couple years, unless you're a 10-year vet or unless you're a quarterback, you're not really left with the money to just go, oh, I'm set for life. I can just be at home with CTE on my lazy boy. What is it like having played in the 70s? What benefits do you get from the NFL or not get from the NFL as compared to guys today?
Well, first and foremost, everybody needs to understand you get no benefits unless you get to your 4th year. That's when you get vested. I do qualify for pension. Having 5 years in the league, and I'll start collecting. I turn 65 next month. And it's about $4,000 a month. The collective bargaining agreements have done a good job for retired athletes to raise that. They give us opportunities to take a percentage of our retirement money to start a business, if that's what you want to do. They have free replacement if you need operations for replacement. They have mental health, free dental. I mean, you can really get a lot of the benefits if you're paying attention. What's sad is that many of the players, in fact, half the Hall of Famers, are busted broke. I mean, they don't have a penny to their name. And it's sad to see after the career in football that they don't know how to go out and create that kind of income that they made playing ball. And nobody owes us a living.
Right.
You got to rediscover yourself. That's why the book, that's why, Market America, shop.com, 26 years in business, $1 billion company. Well, where'd that come from? We started in a friggin' garage.
So talk about that. What was your immediate post NFL career like? When you finished playing, you're out, and are you just like, did you try to hang on for a bit? You trying out for teams, and at what point do you say, well, that's it for me?
Well, I decided to leave the game because back then free agency was not big. I was released and picked up by the Detroit Lions going into the year that they actually won the NFC Championship game and then went on to the Super Bowl. I was the special teams captain in '78 of the Eagles. And all of a sudden, I was just basically sent up to Detroit. And I couldn't understand it.
And nobody wants to go to Detroit. Let's be
well,
honest.
They're actually a great city. I got to tell you that. I mean, a lot of people give it a bad rap, but it's a great city. I played down the road in Ann Arbor. I've got no problems with that. I was happy that I had demand. But my bottom line is it wasn't a game anymore. And so that might sound trivial to me, to people, but hey, I played because I was passionate about it. And then when I went to Detroit, I played another season, went back the following season, just decided I didn't want to play anymore. I said, I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to go get a job and I'm going to get a corner office in Philadelphia. I'm going to be a big shot executive. Wrong. It didn't work out. Nobody wanted to give me a job. My first job after that was for $20,000 working for my agent, trying to recruit college athletes.
Wow, that's but just the psychology of that, of he's working for you and then the script is just flipped right after you retire.
Yeah, totally sucked. But thanks to Mark Stewart, but he's in jail now. So anyway.
What did Mark do?
He burnt down an arena, So, but anyway. Yeah. That's a whole nother book. Yeah. Hey, this is Philly. We're talking. It's like
he was
New York.
OJ's agent too, and so
You just can't nonchalantly. He burnt down an arena.
Yeah. Well, Philadelphia Arena. Yeah, it was a boxing night, but he just needed some extra money.
Yeah,
collect on the insurance.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So at Michigan, what did you study during your undergrad?
I went into School of Business, and going into my sophomore year, the dean came to me and said, listen, this isn't working out for you. So he asked me to leave. And I went to the School of LS&A, Literature, Science, and Arts, and studied economics, and then went back and got a couple business classes. But getting through and just studying economics helped me a lot. Growing up the son of a steel worker, I just wanted to be around somebody with money. I didn't know how it was going to work. Dad wasn't very good at making money, but he was good at loving us and taking care of us. But I wanted more. When I left Clairton and I saw the big homes and saw the nice cars, and I tell my dad, they say, they're probably in the mafia. That's what he'd say. Or well, they must deal drugs if they got a big home. But I just wanted more, and so it just evolved.
So
when you got out, you joined the mafia. You're like,
no,
so I get the big house.
I got out of Michigan, and I was happy to do that. And I went back to Philadelphia looking for opportunities, and there was none. I got disgusted. I got mean. I got bigger. I went up to almost 300 pounds. I got into fights. I started doing drugs. I was trying to be with the in crowd, and it was just a losing opportunity till one night I almost killed myself with overdose, and I was embraced by someone who cared about me and walked me the entire night till I came out of it, and then I changed my life after that.
Wow.
Ended up marrying that woman. So that was something. Yeah.
Wow. So you're that story, Dennis, I mean, you hear that a lot, though, from former athletes where they leave the game and then they find themselves at their lowest spot in their life. And, she obviously helped turn your life around. And then where do you go from there then at that point?
At that time, then I had to start over. I had to make the decision either to become something or just be a wreck the rest of my life. And so I started by helping myself getting back into shape. So I was 295 pounds. I got on a program and lost 65 pounds. I down to my high school weight, 230 pounds. Even today, I'm about 230 pounds. And I've been helping people ever since lose weight, get better nutrition, create lifestyles, and that's what really started my career. I was on television shows. Had thousands of people that I influenced through weight loss. Yeah, and I got involved with network marketing. I don't know if you're familiar with network marketing. Multi-level marketing?
No.
Okay. Amway? Have you
Yeah,
ever heard
sure.
of Amway?
Yeah.
Have you heard Mary Kay, Avon, Tupperware, big companies? Well, I got involved with a company called Cambridge Plan International back in the 80s and primarily made my first $1 million in multi-level marketing in the first 18 months, $1.2 million. And everything changed.
So can you go into that? What does that mean? Like, how did you make that money?
Well, primarily what you do, multi-level marketing is a form of distribution.
Okay.
A lot of people call it pyramid sales, but pyramids are illegal. They're idiots who think that. It's a industry that has over 20 million Americans in it. It's a $100 billion industry, and you can buy anything you want through somebody who has the business in their home. So primarily, I help people lose weight. I sold the product. Their success came back to me basically saying, I have other people. And I said, don't give them to me. Why don't you help them? I'll teach you. And you start teaching people how to be in business, and you leverage your time, and you make a percentage. The multi-level comes back is that you get paid on different levels of distribution. There was some terrible flaws in it that people overpromised and underdelivered. That's the negative of multi-level marketing, which led me to the company that I'm in today, which is Market America, which we created an entire new industry through binomial marketing back in 1992.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that ever since.
Ever since we're in our 26th year, we're just under $1 billion a year in sales. We have offices in 10 countries.
Are you hiring?
Hey, you kidding? Give up all this? The studio?
I mean, I know this makeshift porn studio looks so appealing, but I could use a few extra bucks.
So now I have to mention it because everybody's probably going, well, how did Dennis end up on your couch? And the answer for people that don't know is your son-in-law is Eddie Ift, comedian, who's sitting.
I was going to get to the point where there was a second lowest point.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I was bringing it up because
Trevor, we have a mic here. Eddie can hop on mic.
Love that.
You don't want to hop on mic?
Come on, Eddie. Listen, I'm going to tell you what. Eddie Ift makes my daughter happy. Okay, now for any father that has daughters, that's what you hope for. Okay, and I tell you what, there's never a dull moment with Eddie. That's a beautiful thing.
That's for sure.
He's got a lot of stories.
Well, what I was going to say is, you've got this successful business. You're starting, in '92. You're making all this money, and then you have a beautiful young daughter, and then along comes potty mouth comedian. What's your initial reaction to this guy showing up at your house?
What the fuck? Really? You bring me this guy?
Yeah.
No, we met in the mountains, and it was a great story. When we took him for a walk. I took him for a walk.
Oh, I've heard the bit.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah?
It's true. I said, what are your
there's
intentions?
Acts involved?
Yep. What are your intentions?
There's more to it.
Yeah.
I'll give you.
Yeah, let's get Eddie on the mic here.
Eddie F.
The first time I went to meet him, you had been in trouble a week before. That's when you got.
Oh, is that one? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to meet him after he had a little problem with a bouncer in a bar that pointed at him.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you.
First of all, he was a floor control engineer.
Right.
Yeah.
So
well, another floor control engineer.
I'm minding my own business, and this bouncer just wants to put me out. I mean, he's threatened to throw me out 3 times, and finally he points at me, and with his thumb he says, I'm taking you out, and he starts walking towards me. Well, here's what I've learned. Being a floor control engineer or bouncer, when somebody starts coming to you, you don't want to wait for the person. You want to go to them. And I delivered a great shot to the side of the head. I had my NFL ring on, and he went down. And the next thing you know, it was the dinosaur bar in Rochester, New York, when it all went down.
And I got to meet him a week after that.
And that guy now has CTF.
It was a $15,000 punch.
That'll set. That's basically your rookie year contract.
That's right. -3. Yeah, sure.
That's crazy.
And then I said to him, I don't know if you know this, the first day I was ever at your house. I'm sitting there, and our common bond is we both grew up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And so I thought, wow, I've got this bond with her dad, and the whole family's sitting around. It's over like Thanksgiving, so everybody's watching football, and he's the football guru, and everyone's asking him questions about football. And I go, so Mr. Franks, Pittsburgh. And I'm like, I'm from Pittsburgh. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, don't you just love Pittsburgh? Like, isn't Pittsburgh the best? And I'm like thinking he goes, I don't want to go back.
Oh, that's great.
Those days were good days, but it was good to go on. I'm all about moving forward in life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the last laugh, Vision of Victory. You handed us a couple copies. Thank you for that. Mm. And just looking at the covers, front and back covers, it's a murderer's row of folks that are, forewords by Mark Wahlberg and Carl Peterson. Then on the back, you got quotes from Jaws. And, this is what should people expect when they pick up this book? Where can they get it?
Well, first and foremost, we would appreciate anybody to pick this up and read it. And it's a story about underdogs and what we've learned over 40 years of friendship. And we created this amazing code. And a code is something worthy of keeping over generations. And that's where the vision to victory comes. And there's 7 words that we talk through. And it will help anybody who is entrepreneurial, anybody who wants to get to another level in their life. What makes this so good, in my opinion, is that we take our experiences not only during football, but post-football, the transition, and put all the commonalities together. But the confirmation comes from the Hall of Fame. Guys like, Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl coach, the head coach of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, Mariel Hemingway, amazing author, actress. When I start thinking about Brian Richter, he's a artist in New York, a great landscaper. Helly Lee, Ken Mock. I start thinking about, we got J.R. Reininger, the founder of our company, who's a billionaire today, and when you start thinking about this. So these people confirm the code based on their last laugh. We believe everybody has or will have a last laugh or multiple last laughs. This just helps you set up how you succeed in it.
When you say last laugh, what in particular are you referring to?
Well, you'll see there's a picture in the book of Vince and I that hangs in the Hall of Fame, and it's called The Last Laugh. And this is after we played a game and we beat the undefeated Washington Redskins at the time. And Vince went down, made the hit on a reception of a punt receiver, and I recovered the fumble. And it caught us coming off the field, holding arm on arm, and we're laughing. And they caught this perfect picture of us that represented how we felt with the score in the background. And it won Photo of the Year. And it's just been referred to by so many people about get your last laugh. We were the underdogs. We weren't supposed to win, but we did. And that's the whole concept of playing the game.
So it's basically like, you're kind of, I'm trying to word this, I guess, fast. Joe's already laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm having my last laugh at you stumbling through your next question.
I want to see Ruther fumble this like the Washington Redskin receiver did.
And Eddie's back. Would it be, for a lack of, let's talk about what we have going on. Would it be kind of like people saying, oh, you guys are doing this podcast out of this shitty studio apartment, and then it grows, and then the show becomes massive, and is that the last laugh where you basically make it, so to speak?
That's called a pipe dream.
No, you're exactly right. That's rude. That's downright rude. No, the thing that I'm trying to say is the two of you coming together, there has to be some sort of vision of where you want to take this.
Yeah.
Whether it's 200,000, 500,000.
A one-bedroom.
Then that would be the last laugh. Then you'd start
Think
your
small.
next one. Yes.
Think small.
But you can find the book. It's at shop.com, which is a great place to buy anything you want. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million. It's out there.
And what was the process for writing the book? Now, when did you and Vince, When did this idea come for you guys and say, hey, we should maybe write a book together?
It started about 18 months ago, and we didn't have a clue on how to get started. So what we did, we sat down and we did 35 3-minute videos. And we just picked important topics to us. And we took the videos, we went back and read them, listened to them, and then laid out an outline. And then based on who we were, we brought in a professional writer to help us. Bonnie Church, she was amazing. And it was the hardest thing she ever did, writing for 2 men. And we beat her up so bad, and not physically, just saying.
Can't say that these days.
Yeah, no, hashtag me too, no way. But I'm just saying, it was so hard for her, but because we kept saying, that's not how we talk. We don't talk that way. So we took her to football games. We took her into environments where the guys were, so she would hear how we spoke and how she could put it together. And she did a great job in doing that. But it all started with, we want to give something for the generations ahead. Okay, and really, when you think about it, you want to learn from the people that were experienced. Those of you, the millennials coming up, the Gen Zs, you want to learn from those people that have been there, and then you want to learn and do experiential learning, because that's the best way you do it. Get engaged with it. But bottom line is, it was something that it was, let's do this, and we don't say something that we don't do. I mean, that's just one of the things. We won't just talk.
And I think that's something, we've been talking a lot about your career in the NFL, and I feel like that's something that's different from your era of players to guys today. And that's why I'm excited to read it, is because I feel like we get everybody's story now all the time. We see Odell Beckham in hotel rooms, and we see, what Cam Newton's wearing to the games, and guys like you and Vince, it was a struggle just to make it. And now we're getting the story and your sort of keys to victory and your vision to victory, I should say.
Yeah, and I want you to know my shirt that I have on is called Who's Nuts.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that.
Who's Nuts is a very big award given to one player each game for the biggest hit. And Vince and I, we used to go after these all the time. Our whole team went after them. And so we earned our share. But today, Who's Nuts is known by all Philadelphians. When people wear this around the city, they know. They're looking for the big hit, no matter what it is.
Seeing as how you're still often in Philly and you played there for so many years, what's the best cheesesteak in Philadelphia?
Well, hey, listen, if you're going to compare Pat's and Geno's,
Yeah.
If you're there on the corner in South Philly, I'm swaying towards Geno's, okay? Only because they have my picture up.
Yeah, they got my picture up. They got my picture up, too.
Great, awesome.
That's why I said.
But I'm a fan of Tony Luke's, but I'm really swaying to the roast pork now.
Oh, okay.
So if you're in Philly, the cheesesteaks are great, but try Tony Luke's roast pork, man. It's great. It's really good. Cheese, little broccoli rabe on there, some hot peppers. Ooh.
Man, I'm getting hungry just hearing that. I have to ask you, going back to your playing days, because I loved the book North Dallas 40. Yeah. Now, that book, is that really symbolic of the era you played in? For someone who read that book, and obviously they turned it into a movie, but would you say that is pretty similar? Or would you say it's more of an exaggeration?
Let me say this to you. The days playing football back in the era when I came through was amazing. We did not condition like they condition today. After practice, we would go out and drink beer. It just so happened to be at a topless place. We went in areas that that people didn't normally go, but we were normal people. We had to basically survive and live because we didn't know how long the game was going to last for us.
Yeah.
But there were some crazy parties, and some of the guys, God, there were people that light themselves on fire. There had people that eat glass. I mean, Billy Bradley. From Texas, he was Wild Bill.
So would these be after the games or just on the week? It didn't matter, a Friday night?
Well, you know what? I will tell you the era where we come from. It was not unusual to smoke a cigarette before a game in the locker room.
That's amazing.
So, in fact, we mentioned in the book, Vince and I would just take a cigarette, get a buzz, a nicotine buzz, go. We drive we had a Datsun 280Z. We take the T-tops off. We go through South Philly, man. People throw us fruit and shit. It was great. I mean, we'd have baseball caps on, cigarette out of the mouth, I mean, it was just different.
The perks of being in the NFL: free fruit.
I only made 18 grand, but I got a bag of oranges.
Yeah. You said guys lighting himself on fire, which led
Tim
me...
Rosovich.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Tim Rosovich. He was a crazy middle linebacker for the Eagles back.
What do you? But can we get? I got to get into this. What do you mean he lit himself on fire? Is he dousing himself with gasoline? What is
lighter fluid.
Okay, yeah.
And see how long you stay on fire before you put yourself out. I mean, we had contests with the Philadelphia Flyers. How many beers you can drink standing on your head? Try it.
Wow.
Up against the wall.
Trevor.
Against the wall.
That's what you're doing after this game. After this episode.
And when you start thinking about that, that's tough, but you can do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But because you brought up the fire thing, the one thing that we had on our list of questions, somebody gave us a tip on asking you about, and the right when you said somebody on fire, I thought, I got to ask him about this Michael Jackson party, because that's another guy who lit himself on fire one time. I've heard you partied at Michael Jackson's house?
Yeah, there was quite a few places we partied, and it didn't matter where we were always the same. We'd go in very calm, but within an hour it'd be pretty wild. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that party.
But you were standing on your head drinking beers.
But hold on, can I ask? Is this Neverland Ranch?
No, actually, it wasn't.
This is pre-Neverland.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you would have been way too old to be there.
Definitely not his type.
I mean, have you thought about, though, because I find that, like, the story's fascinating. You talking about people lighting themselves on fire, guy eating glass, all the, smoking cigarettes before games, and I am so intrigued by that. Have you ever thought about, now that you guys got one book out of the way, have you ever thought about some of the true stories that happened about going into a second book?
Well, we were talking a little bit about coming out with something called Life as a Contact Sport, which gets more engaged with how people interact with us. Yeah. So we're already kicking it around.
Okay.
This one's taken off pretty good. We're pretty excited about it. We had a good set of pre-sales, and we've been invited to go out do the tour, and we're doing a lot of radio shows and things like that. It's been a real experience, but what's the most exciting thing about it is people. The people who appreciate where we're coming from. They respect the Philadelphia Eagles or the NFL players. Meeting fans, even though you're a Giants fan, it's really funny. My daughter has a daughter, or Eddie's daughter, my granddaughter, Izzy. Mm-hmm. I went to her school, and it was a pajama and pancake day. And the grandfathers and some dads would put in their pajamas and go make pancakes for the kids. Well, one of the dads came in with a New York Giants onesie. And it was like, really? I said,
so you punched him.
Yeah. I took my spatula and smacked him. He said, what was that for? He says, I'm an Eagles man. No, it's really funny. I love the fans. I love the cities that are engaged with it. I mean, that's the best. It brings the sport to another level. Without the fans, it would be nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are great.
Yeah, well, that brings us to kind of the current state of the NFL. Obviously, a lot of the drama this year was in the protests and how the fans are reacting to all that stuff. As a guy who played in the league, how do you feel about all that stuff that's going down and sort of the politicization of the NFL?
My personal opinion is that we should not do our protesting at the games or anything involved with our work. If people came into my business, I have almost 1,000 employees. I mean, and if somebody started protesting at our work, you would be fired. You would be taken out. Human resources would take you out. Okay, and I get it, but there's a lot more platforms that NFL players can have outside the game, but not during the national anthem. Not, and the guys say it's not about the national anthem, but why use that?
Right. And I guess, as somebody who watches this stuff, and I've always sort of been on the side of guys who are, using their right to free speech and saying but I understand what you're saying. If somebody came into your work and did that, that would be a totally different thing. But then it always begs the question, why is the national anthem even part of, why are we having that? Why is this an opportunity? That's also something that wouldn't happen at your offices. You wouldn't make everybody stand up and say a Pledge of Allegiance, I'm assuming, before they sit down at their computer. Is that something that...
We do that.
You do that?
No.
I was like, man, no wonder.
And we sing God Bless America, too.
Yeah. But is it... What do you think about the idea that maybe they do the flyovers, they do the flag of the size of the field? Do you think that the opportunities, it's sort of giving players the opportunity to protest something by also you're sort of doing a commercial for the military sort of before every football game at this point?
Now, is it a commercial for the military or the commercial to our country that allows us to have these types of gatherings in so many cities at the same time? The freedom that came at the cost of so many deaths. It's all up to the individual and how they interpret it. It can be done either way. It's just like math. You can interpret numbers many different ways.
Yeah.
And the same thing with this. And it's news, and people want to talk about it. But basically, I'd like that. I don't deal with religion. I don't deal with politics, and I try to respect, our government because it's such a great place to live here.
Yeah, and that's what maybe we should do that a little more, Prano. That'll never happen, will it?
When Dennis is here, I'm just going, yeah, okay. He still looks like he kicked my ass.
Yeah. Can I see you punch a bouncer in Venice?
He could.
But before you leave, can I see you walk over to Townhouse and just punch that bouncer just so I can just see it in real time?
Oh, God. I got to tell you what, it was great. In fact, the people that were with me jumped in, and afterwards, I never saw such a group of men that was so excited. I said, Denny. They go, Denny, this was the greatest night of my life. Greatest night of my life. I said, what, get into a fight? He says, yeah, I haven't done this for years. I mean, it's just like everybody would say, this was great. And it was funny.
Where were you when that Russian guy was extorting $3,000 from us?
Yeah, moving in.
When we moved Lauren here from North Carolina, moved her stuff. We paid a guy $1,000 to move her stuff out here, but when he showed up, he wanted $2,000 more. Right. And he was this big Russian guy, and he just said, "I said you said $1,000," and he said, "It's $3,000 now." And I said, $1,000, you get $1,000," and he said, "See ya." Yep. He goes, "If you want all your stuff, it'll be in a storage container somewhere, and when you have the $2,000, you'll get it." And so I went, "Hold on. Let me get someone to talk to you." So I went in to get Mr. Franks, and he went out and talked to him. And he came back, and I said, "You told him, didn't you?" He goes, "No, I got to get my checkbook."
Yeah, I'm not stupid.
I mean, we saw how the guy handled a knife with the cardboard
I'm not
boxes.
stupid. Yeah, the guy in the cab. The one guy was talking to, but the guy in the cab, I didn't know what the hell was behind the door.
Well, that's great. Well, can people follow you? They can follow you. Are you on social media?
Yeah, I am. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. It's just Dennis Franks.
Just at Dennis Franks?
Yes.
Okay. And guys, the last laugh, Vision to Victory. Why don't you hold it up for the camera?
Yeah,
that'll be good. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of you guys have struggles reading, but Joe and I are stoked to read it.
It doesn't look like it's, it doesn't have a ton of pages.
No, it's 200.
Paul should be able to get through it.
Yeah. And
200 pages.
And Dennis, we have a ton of Eagles fans. The reason I know this is because every time they win, they blow up we have a hotline, and they all want to talk trash to Joe.
And tell me to kill myself.
Yes. Yeah. So
do they do something like EAGLES Eagles?
PTSD.
No. In fact, your wife changed me to Dennis Franks.
You're Dennis Franks.
Yeah. Mm.
Or are you Dennis J. Franks on Twitter?
You know what? Why are you asking me these tough questions?
Yeah. Well,
Guys,
because
just go find him on Twitter, and Instagram.
Find me if you can.
Yeah.
Find me if you can.
Yeah.
I'm the guy, you know.
Okay, so it's Dennis J. Franks on Twitter.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
There we go,
that.
Trevor. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. In fact, you should get a raise.
We'll double it. We're gonna double it.
We'll double it. You get 6 items from our clothing sponsor a month now. Well, Dennis, it's been a pleasure
Thank
and
you
such an
so
amazing
much.
story. And I know Joe and I'm sure you have limited time, but we could go on forever on some of this stuff.
You guys were awesome.
And we're both excited to read the book. So, guys, The Last Laugh, Vision to Victory. Get it. Support Dennis. I know you guys are going to love this interview. Let him know how you feel on social media. And keep it somewhat clean, guys. Come on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
so
Dennis.
much.
Yeah. Have a
Bet.
great day.
All right.
Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast.